All right, I have the Quick Mill Arnos, which is sold by Whole Latte Love. Its assembly and disassembly instructions are not that obvious. They're not in the manual that came with the Quick Mill. So I figured it out myself, and I'm going to share that now. So one thing they tell you to do is to push it over to its side, which I'll do in a second, and get at the bottom two screws. So let's do that now. Okay, here it is on its side, and there's a screw there and the screw there. So let's take those ones out. Okay, so those screws are out. And next, we're gonna get at this guy here and this one here. Okay, those two are out. And now we gotta get this guy here and this one here. So I'll go do that now. Okay, those screws are out. Now let's take the panel off, and it has a little slider. It goes between this top thing and the thing underneath. This is sandwiched in between. Just pull that out, and pull this guy out a little bit too. Now this one, it's on these, you can't see them, but they're on these little posts. So you just gotta pop it off. And it seems like you're gonna damage things, but it's okay. So this is on that post. This is on that post, and that will give us access to this screw and this screw, which we're going to take off next. And I'll put this somewhere safe. So there's just one screw here. So we're going to take that one out, and then we'll be able to lift this out. There's a hose that won't let you lift this totally out, but it'll lay to the side connected by that hose. Not a big deal. So let's do that, and then I'll show you what I mean. Okay, that screw is out, and I forgot. The overpressure valve access, it has this little nut on there, so I've already loosened it mostly. Just take this one off, put it somewhere safe, and then this whole thing pops out. There's a hose, and there's a little detector for the water when it's present. But this is what we came here for. We're trying to get access to the innards. What I'm doing specifically in this case is I'm replacing the boiler element, which no longer works. Now, you could access the boiler element through here. There's a little piece that comes off. It has screws on it itself. But I prefer to have the whole thing open because it's easier to spot any leaks, whether they be down here or whether new leaks have appeared up here. I just get it up to temperature, get it running, check it before I put it all back together. So now some people might just want to use the quick access if they are descaling or things like that. But anyway, this is how you take the whole thing apart. So next step is to remove that boiler element. Okay, here we are looking from underneath, and I've taken off that ground plug, that little yellow and green stripe thing, and the two electric leads. I've also taken off. It really doesn't matter which order those go on. But anyway, with this one, to take off the boiler element, there's a 1 7/16 inch socket. Now I went and got an impact socket. You don't need to get an impact one, but whatever. It's tough. I don't have an impact drill, so I just put it on a normal ratchet with a 1/2 inch connector. So we'll go and get this to come off. Now I put a towel here because there's water in the boiler still. Some people have said, you can open up the hot water valve and then the steam valve and have it on its side, and it'll kind of siphon through. Didn't work for me. It doesn't matter, it's just a bit of water. Put a bit of towels there and we'll be good. All right, so let's open it up. Okay, the element's been taken out. Now, around this outlet, there's a bit of, I don't know, scale or some kind of buildup. I'll take a bit of sandpaper and clean that off because we want that surface to be pretty flat and flush so that we can put on the new element with its nice new Teflon gasket. In my experience, don't cheap out. Don't try to reuse the old gasket. It'll just leak. Get a new gasket. And also I'll put some Teflon tape on the threads, just a little bit, and we'll show you that in a second. Now, one thing to note you can obviously see the two leads for the heating element itself, but then there's no lug for the neutral, or not neutral, there's no lug for the earth or ground. And there is a lug on here, but you can see it's screwed in. You can actually take that lug off of the old one and put it onto the new one. So I'm going to do that now. And there we have it. Now the ground lug has been reattached. So now it goes up into the machine. All right, so the gasket's here, and I put a bit of Teflon tape here, and it goes around like that, so that when you screw it in, it's not going to be all crumpled up. And you leave just the first 2 threads or so without the Teflon tape. That'll just help it lock into place. And then this will keep it sealed. All right, so let's put it back in. All right, so just be forewarned that to get the threads to catch, it's a little tricky. So don't be surprised if it's taking you a couple minutes, but once it catches, you're good, and then you can tighten it up with the socket. Okay, the new element is in, and the leads are connected, and the ground lug as well. And so that's kind of what it should look like. Now I'm going to basically put this guy back on just enough so that I can put a water tank in there, and then I'll switch it on. I've got it going through a ground fault circuit interrupt, so that if there's any current leakage, this will trip. So this is your first safeguard. I wouldn't do this without a GFCI. If you don't have a GFCI outlet, you can get one of these portable GFCIs and plug it into your existing outlet. And assuming your existing outlet is wired properly, it'll do the trick. So let's get this back on and power it up and see what happens. There may be leaks, but let's find out. Okay, so it's plugged in into the GFCI, and now we're gonna get this guy going. It didn't trip, that's a good sign. It'll pump water into the tank now. Okay, so it's finished pumping. It's registering 64, 65 Fahrenheit, and I would expect it to start making that telltale boiler sound. Which you can hear very faintly. And now it's climbing to 66. I want to get this boiler up to 261, so let's come back in a bit and see how it looks. So it's up to 260, 261. It kind of jumps between those. And yeah, no leaks. No leaks anywhere. Knock on wood. All right, so I'm gonna turn this off before it gets the group head hot. And we'll put it back together next. All right, so I've taken the water reservoir out because we're gonna have to tip this on its side to put in the bottom screws eventually, so we don't want water leaking everywhere. But yeah, the first thing we're gonna do is attach this piece here using that screw, and then we'll put that nut back on top. Yeah, so let's start with that. Oh, the other thing is, you might be wondering, hey, which screw goes where? It's pretty much interchangeable. The only ones you have to really keep an eye on are these ones here that we took off first with the washers on them, because without those washers, it won't form a tight fit on the bottom. So anyway, let's get this put back together. Okay, so we got the bottom screw in, we've got that nut there, and these, we have enough space to put the other stuff in. We're gonna put it on the sides first, and remember this post is on the lower side, and this little slot will tell you that it's got to go on this side so that we can attach it with a screw underneath afterwards. So I'm going to put this in. This has to sandwich back in between these things, and yeah, all right, let's do that. So when putting this back on, you want it to slide as much forward as possible, and this little lip here, you want it to be as flush as possible as well, so things are nice and tight. But I always leave this a little loose until I get the overall fit better. I've also put in the bottom screw here, So we can start tightening that up. And then I'll do the same thing with the other panel on the other side. And then finally I'll put the back panel on, and then we should be good. Okay, now the second side panel is on, and it's reasonably tight there. I can always loosen it and shift stuff around if I need to, but it looks to be pretty good. Now I'm going to get this back panel onto it. Now this little divot down here, that's the bottom part. And so we need to really kind of get this onto these posts. So I don't know if you recall from earlier in the video, there are some posts. So we kind of want to line them up and then pop them on. So I'll do that next. So I'm missing steps here because I'm operating the camera and having to switch to use two hands. But anyway, this top part lines relatively flush. And then you want to push the bottom in, click, and then here, click. So that clicks into place. And now we got to put these screws back in. The one down here, and it's equivalent down there. So let's do that next. A nice thing about these E61 machines is that they're pretty simple to repair. There's not a whole lot going on with them, and parts are more or less standard. So hope you have good luck if you're trying to repair your machine, and if you have a quick mill Arnos like this one. It's a little tricky to figure out how to get apart, but hopefully this video will help you get over that hurdle and get back to brewing beautiful Italian coffee. Bye for now.